And we are opening this season with most interesting interview with Degges. Let's have a look at the introduction file. With over 30 years experience in the specialist security sector, leading his team of experts, many drawn from former special and elite military forces, government, law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Navigating counterterrorism efforts, intelligence gathering, multi-jurisdictional investigations, and complex fraud cases demands meticulous planning, collaboration, and access to reliable information sources. Do you need an advice, guidance, or support as security? Will Degges is the best who does it. Hi, Will.
Hi, Anastasia. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank
We've
you.
been meaning to do this for a little while, so I'm looking
Yes.
forward to the questions you're going to ask me. I
I
can tell they're
got-
going to be tough, being a tough Russian girl. You're going to come at me hard.
You know, I was born in military town in northwest of Russia.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me.
So I'm kind of like a 007 girl, James Bond girl.
0007, maybe even.
And thanks for coming.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
I got lots of questions from my friends, from my
Sure.
followers regarding cybersecurity. You know,
Okay.
this is very, very hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
And what actually cybersecurity is? We are living in an invisible world of internet, and we don't know what's going on there. What is this? Can you explain a little bit about it?
Okay. So the first thing, Anastasia, I wouldn't say I was a cybersecurity expert, even though I have written a book about keeping safe online. I would say that I act as that kind of intermediary between the technical people who are more often than not, at some degree, and they would by their own admission say somewhat on the spectrum. And that's what makes them especially talented at what they do. And everyday people who have the issues, have the problems, and they need to get solutions. So I'm almost a translator. And since the late 90s, when the internet really started coming about, you had a massive divide between these two groups, the specialists and the normal people. And there was a fall or a void in communication between the two where one didn't understand the other. So one of the things that I first did was to try and act as that translator to explain to both sides what they needed, how they could do it, what were the solutions, and what were the threats.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And how to protect yourself from bullying and harassment in social media? Because I had very bad situation with one woman.
Yeah,
And actually, I would like to start our interview
of course.
from this situation because as long as I know, a lot of my friends, not a lot, like a few of my friends had similar situations, especially in Instagram.
Yes.
And, my followers, my friends, my clients, my business partners receive kind of messages like this.
Okay.
If I can pass it.
Yeah,
to you.
sure.
Yeah.
I'll happily
This-
have a look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can show it to the camera as well. Yeah.
Okay.
This. Look.
Yeah. I've seen lots of things like this.
Look like
How
this.
nice. There are some lovely people on the internet.
Yeah, look.
I know. Then you know the funniest thing is, Anastasia? A lot of people feel incredibly brave from behind a computer or behind a device. And when I very first started out in this whole space, and particularly with Twitter, I had a lot of clients who
Especially
were famous,
from Twitter.
very well known, celebrities, actors, actresses, entertainers of various types. And they would come to me and they'd say, Will, what can I do? How can I protect myself against these horrible trolls who are making horrible comments or making up lies or whatever it might be? And really back then, still to this day, I would subscribe to the fact that you've got to accept that either you don't do social media, or if you do, you need to grow a thick skin. Now, there are many, many different types of bullying that can take place. There are those that just want to say something insulting. They want to say something horrible. And in terms of the social media platforms, Twitter is probably the worst And if you go onto any of my posts on my Twitter account, you'll see lots of people saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm an idiot, that I'm this, I'm that, and everything else. And Instagram tends to be less aggressive, less trolling. And many of the administrators of these accounts, Meta, for example, and Elon Musk,
They
they're
have
doing their
filter.
best. They're doing their best to try and filter these things. But if you report them, you block them. And usually the best you can do is just to block. And if I get someone who is rude, I'll block them. It doesn't bother me. I don't know who this person is. If I never hear from them again, fantastic. But then you can have those that are trying to damage your reputation. They're trying to damage your
This
business.
is what happened
like
to
this
me.
one here.
Yes.
Or you have someone who is trying to spin a false story about you or a false optic on you. Now, those are completely different. And I'll be realistic with you. I have followed for some of my clients who have had huge amounts of abuse, the processes that they ask you to take with the social media platforms, which is to report it to the law enforcement agencies, generate a crime reference number, refer it back, try and find out who it is. But the reality is that for one particular client I did, just as a proof of concept, it took 8 months and they didn't get anywhere. Because one of the problems you have to consider is I can go out, I can buy a pay-as-you-go phone, and I don't want to give your listeners and your viewers any ideas here, but I could buy a phone with cash. I top it up with cash, no credit card, no digital signature that's attached to it. I can load an account like Instagram or Twitter, create a handle, set up a fake email address to verify it against, and then to my heart's content, I can send you horrible stuff. And it's very, very difficult to trace who that person is. So there are times where people can be coaxed. And I'm not going to reveal too much on your podcast because that gives away the secrets that we use to protect people. But we can find a few, and I have found a few. And more often than not, the people who are responsible for this trolling are usually very sad individuals. They're very lonely, but they never fit a particular profile. For example, you think of it as a sad middle-aged man who's alone sitting in his
This
bedroom.
kind of psychological portrait
Oh my God.
this kind of people.
Absolutely. And there is no clear portraiture. You can have someone who is married, they have children, they work, they volunteer at the local church. You know, they can be, all intents and purposes, a very respectable citizen. But the problem is that all of us, every single one of us, including you, Anastasia, we will have a dark corner in our world. Very few people get to see it, but it's that dark corner where whether we allow that to invade or to cross over into our own lives. So like intrusive thoughts, we keep them to ourselves. We don't speak them out loud. Some people don't have a control mechanism to stop that. But the thing you must always remember if you do receive these kinds of comments, the first thing you try and avoid doing, however you may want to contest it, is to respond to them. They're looking for a reaction. They're looking for you to be provoked and for them to see that you're provoked.
I didn't respond to these messages. I just
Excellent.
blocked the accounts.
Nice.
But these accounts keep texting and sending messages to my followers, my clients, my business partners, and my friends on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was keep receiving lots of screenshots from everyone.
Yeah.
You know, it was very insulting. It was like
It is.
This woman was keep doing this for 2 months. She asked her lawyers to run over to me, you know.
Yeah.
They sent me email that I
Right.
have to apologize for something.
Yeah.
I didn't even respond to
Good.
the lawyers.
Absolutely.
I reported to
but
police.
I mean, if the lawyers could confirm that these came from their client, the lawyers are culpable for being involved in this harassment.
This
And
is what
here
I
in the-
said to them.
Yeah.
Yes. This is what I responded with.
And you can report them to the Law Society. And in
Yeah.
terms of this kind of very vicious campaigning, the simple things I would suggest is friends, business colleagues, you run a counter-offensive. And the counter-offensive is to put posts up to simply say, if you receive a message of this type from this person, whoever it might be, please report them to Instagram. And the more people you get to report them, the more pressure is put onto Meta to remove them, to block them. And they will and do have the capability to block IP addresses. But that is only if they're not using a virtual private network, a VPN, to conceal their IP address, which is when it becomes very complicated. But some reassurance should be that many of the people behind these are usually stupid. They're not very technically savvy. They don't know the tricks like I do. So if I wanted to go to the dark side and be horrible, I could probably do it and get away with it. A lot of people can't, and they will often get caught out.
But it's impossible to find the traces for
Not
this
always,
kind of.
not always. You can sometimes. It really depends. It's like I've had people who've made death threats or threats to harm against people.
Wow.
And you'd be amazed how many of these people, they will conceal their number. They'll withhold their number, obviously, or they'll block their number from showing on display when they call you. Or they'll use a burner cell. It's amazing how many of these people slip up and they forget to withhold the number, and the number pops up, and then you've got them.
Because police was asking me, why do you think it's her? And I could prove it only with lawyers' emails.
Yeah, excellent.
Only.
That's even
Only.
better.
Yes.
That's
I sent
really good.
everything to the lady from the police station.
Yeah.
She
It's
was,
good that you had
she
someone
was
good.
brilliant.
Yeah.
She called her up to this woman who did these horrible things to me. And she said, if she ever send me messages or talks to me or approach me more than 100 meters, she'll go to jail immediately.
Yeah.
And she stopped. She deleted all accounts and everything. Stopped doing everything. But I think I still feel like I haven't done it properly. I
Why?
should have done, because she doesn't care. She doesn't.
She
care.
will do. If she's stopped,
Yeah.
the one thing I can tell you is if she's stopped her campaign, if she's deleted her evidential trail, which you've got and you've managed to capture, and that's another thing I'd advise, your followers. If you do receive any kind of abusive message, whether it be SMS, WhatsApp, Signal, Instagram, whatever it might be, the most important thing for you to do is to screenshot it. Do not delete. If you have an abusive ex-partner, for example, and I've dealt with many of those, and they're sending abusive or harassing messages, don't delete them. As tempting as it might be to say, psychologically, I've deleted it, I don't need to think about it, that evidential trail is essential for law enforcement to be able to support you. Because under the Harassment Act here in the United Kingdom, for example, we need to prove, the police or I need to prove what we call a course of conduct. And the course of conduct is a series of communications that have either upset, disturbed, intimidated you in some capacity or another. And that course of conduct can only be proven when you have these. I've had clients who've called me and said, Will, I need some help. And, I've gone, great, show me the messages. And they've gone, I've deleted them. I'm like, we're back to ground zero. We have to wait for more messages to come in before we can build that case.
What was the worst case you ever had? Or the most difficult and very stressful case for you? You've been doing this for 30 years. You obviously had something
A lot of cases.
very, very bad situation. Maybe some negotiations with terrorists
with kidnappers.
With
I think
whatever,
where
yes.
I think where it's always difficult, and then one of the things that I always communicate. So I've negotiated a number of cases where children have been taken, partners have been taken, and when children, particularly young children, are taken, there is, with all of them, a question of welfare and about communicating to the kidnappers that the better condition that the hostage or hostages are held in, the better the negotiations will go. And in many cases, they may ask for 10 million or 15 million US dollars. The reality is highly unlikely they're going to get that amount of money, not because you don't want to pay it or the client doesn't want to pay it. It's the fact of getting access to that cash within an expedient period of time. It could also be where you are in the world that it's difficult to get that cash into that country. And I know certainly of many people who've done ransom jobs. They've brought the money into the country. They've been arrested by the authorities carrying significant amounts of cash, and they go straight to jail. So there's a huge risk involved in there. So it may be that, again, without giving too many secrets away, it may be a way of bringing in the money in various different ways and in different shapes, shall we say, to then resolve the ransom. But for me, the most distressing cases, and I couldn't pinpoint one immediately off the top of my head, but I would say it's usually when there are children involved. That is really tough. And if it's little girls, yeah, it's really tough. The one consolation that you take when you do get kidnappers is, depending on where you are in the world, will depend on whether they have a pretty advanced and experienced mechanism in place. And the more experienced and the more professional the kidnappers are, the better it is. If it's amateurs, then it becomes a problem because they don't know how to manage and hold hostages safely and healthily.
Yes, this is a very stressful job you do.
Has its moments.
Must be very, very stressful. So let's have a look at the questions of my friends. Could you share a real life example of case study where a cybersecurity breach had a significant impact on an organization? What
Yeah.
were the keys lesson learned from that incident?
Okay, I could think of one immediately on that one. I can't say who for obvious reasons, but this was an online retailer, e-commerce business in the fashion world. That's as much of a clue as I can give you. Their turnover was about £1 billion a year. And what happened was they called me up, as they often do. It was 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening. And they said, Will, we've got a serious problem here. We've got all our data encrypted and ransomware attached to it. And unless we pay them 1 Bitcoin, they're not going to release the decryption key. So I said, okay, do not use that Bitcoin. Stand fast. I'll be with you in the morning. So when I arrived in the morning, they said, well, why can't we use the Bitcoin? And I said, well, the biggest problem you have with that is that you would have bought that Bitcoin. Bitcoins will have a signature attached to it of who's bought it.
Yes, obviously, yeah.
If
you can find
and if you
traces.
Exactly. And if you've bought that Bitcoin, and I'm very distrusting of Bitcoin and crypto fully anyway, but if you bought that Bitcoin, the problem is that the moment you go to pay that ransom to have your data released and get that decryption key, they'll know who it is. And many of these people who distribute this ransomware don't know who they're hitting. It's like casting a very wide net to see how many fish they catch. And the only way and the only time that they realize which fish they've caught is when the victim pays the Bitcoin to get the decryption key. I said, there's also another issue. So we need to buy you a Bitcoin deniably. And what I mean by deniably is
you can cancel it.
They don't know who it's bought by. And there are a couple of ATMs here in London and around the world where you can buy Bitcoin with cash. So you buy it with cash. But that decryption key, I said, is probably worth nothing. It's probably more harm than good. So what they thought was the key to open up their data and release it, we actually demonstrated on a dirty laptop, which was disconnected from their network. We used the decryption key, and we showed that within the decryption key was an even bigger ransomware. So what they would have found was the bandits would have gone, oh, we've hit this company X, they're worth a fortune. It's not some mom and pop small business that we've hit. We've hit a big fish this time. So we didn't want that to happen. So doing it offline on the dirty laptop, we found an even worse ransomware inside. I have within my teams a number of guys. I mentioned about them being on the spectrum, and this guy definitely, he's the loveliest guy ever, but try and have a normal conversation with him, no chance. Stick him in front of a computer, he's a genius. And he literally sat down for almost 36 hours, just literally decrypting it himself. And he decrypted. What had turned out was 17 terabytes of data. And this company, if they
stole 70 terabytes.
That they froze, that they held, they encrypted. And if that
so
hadn't been decrypted...
they had very strong hackers.
Oh, yeah, this ransomware was good. But the reason, the hackers, let's come on to that. So them managing to get around this, my guy, Lithio, basically a Lithuanian guy, super fun, lovely. I mean, he probably plays Call of Duty every other hour of the day when he's not working on computers. He literally decrypts it all himself. So if they hadn't had that 17 terabytes decrypted, they would have been screwed. Their business, gone. They wouldn't be able to continue. Now, what we found out, and this is the thing that, even though the viewers can possibly take away with them when they're at their own offices, however big or small it might be, every business will want to put very strong and very good bandwidth on their Wi-Fi connection. So their business is running well. And what happened in this company was too many people had access, administrative access, and they were downloading their movies, their BitTorrents, their music on the company system because they would get those downloads much quicker than if they did it at home. So basically, these people who had the permissions to be able to get onto those websites, and then only administrators could do that, or people with administration passwords and authorities, they basically ended up just introducing the threat, because some of those websites you go on to download, music that has been stolen, the latest music by, I don't know, Dua Lipa. You don't want to pay for it. You want to rip it from a website or a movie. Many of those can quite often have malware within them, which can allow the hackers to put it into a seed for the latest Barbie movie, and you think you're downloading the Barbie movie, but actually you're downloading malware, or ransomware, which is exactly what happened here.
And did you solve the problem?
Oh yeah. We decrypted everything, and they were fine, and didn't even have to spend their Bitcoin.
How long did it take you?
Took us about 3 days in total.
3 days.
Yeah. So it wasn't too
But
bad.
did you find out who was it?
No, didn't need to. And it's the same with kidnapping. You don't. You communicate with kidnappers that your job is not to solve a crime, to get them arrested. If anything, it's anything but get them arrested. Because obviously, you want to get the hostage back. The hostage is the most important sort of element there, not getting them caught. Maybe down the line.
But usually they run away, the kidnappers,
or it's
with money or without money, they just
with the
get
money.
away with it.
Yeah, quite often. But in certain parts of the world, Anastasia, and Russia, plenty of that going on over there. The problem that you have is these guys are usually known to law enforcement. In certain parts of the world, we will not even inform law enforcement. Here in the UK, you're legally obliged, but also we can trust guys in law enforcement. We know many of them. And legally, you need to do so. But in various other parts of the world, in certain parts of Latin America, we would keep it absolutely quiet, because quite often members of law enforcement can be involved or connected to the kidnappers.
Yes. Have you seen movie Freedom of Silence?
Yes, I have. Yeah, great movie about the child trafficking.
About child trafficking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says it's one of the biggest
Child trafficking is
business.
huge. It's
yes,
huge. It's
especially now.
I did an
years.
interesting job. I mean, the same for sex trafficking as well. I was nearly involved in a very huge project in Bosnia to free some women who were being held by Serbian mafia, but also being used with the UN, some of the UN troops out there in brothels. That's a big story. Wow. I could share with you at another time. Yeah. But yeah, we were going to go in, kick doors down, get these girls out.
But it's more like, I would say it most often that some big people involved.
Yeah, quite often. There will be some sort of persons in
and you have
positions of power.
Of course, you have to do it very, very privately and quietly.
Sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, it's very difficult job, Yeah.
It has its moments.
Let's change for another question. In your opinion, what are the most common mistakes or misconceptions that people have about cybersecurity? How can individuals and businesses better protect themselves from cyber threats?
All right, I give you 3 basic things. The first is make sure all your passwords are secure, and they're good, and they're complex, and they're robust passwords. And devices like Apple, are very, very good these days about saving those complex passwords into our keychains. The second thing I would say is make sure you update your software all the time, whenever a new update comes out. So, for example, if you have an iPhone, which I see you do, even if you put automatic update on there, doesn't mean it will automatically update. Check it periodically to make sure you have got the latest version, because quite often in those versions, there will be some security fixes or there will be some security related updates which are going to keep your device safe. There is a big market out there for what we call 0-day exploitation. So when a new software comes out, there'll be lots of little hackers out there trying to out-engineer what that software has and find the holes. And this is very big business. I know some guys who are involved in it, and they will sell those 0-day exploits. And the reason they're called 0-day is it may not last for more than a day. They will sell them for millions to governments so that they could get into those key mobile phones, those key iPhones of targets within that day, pull all their data off, working around the back of it. So such as Pegasus. I don't know whether you heard of Pegasus.
No, I don't know.
So Pegasus was a software that was used out of the Middle East to target various people, from Jeff Bezos to many celebrities, to lots of heads of business, heads of state, to extract and steal their information. And the third thing, so passwords, updating your software. And number 3 is backing up your data.
But it's also dangerous backing up your data. If you keep it in iCloud.
No, iCloud's good. iCloud's good.
You think so?
Yeah, as long as you got good passwords, you got multi-factor authentication.
I don't even remember my password from iCloud ever.
But what you must have is multi-factor authentication. For many years, people would do two-factor authentication, which is where you input, your email address, you put in your password, and sends you an SMS. That I can show you how to spoof that. I can show you how I can work around that, and I can still get into your account. What you need is something like Authy or Google Authenticator apps. They are far more secure. So that's multi-factor authentication. But backing up your data is essential, because if we go back to the anecdote I told you of that fashion company that got hacked and had the ransomware, if they'd had proper backups, whatever data was held and had been encrypted, they could just go delete. We'll just use our backups, and off and away we go. So the same for you. If someone gets into your phone, and the other thing as well is if you have a boyfriend, a jealous boyfriend or a partner, and they want to put some spyware on your phone. I mean, I know of one recent case of a wife who was very suspicious of her husband. And so she wanted to put some spyware on. And what she did was she made him dinner that night, and she put lots of sleeping tablets in his dinner so he would go to fast asleep. She then got into his phone, uploaded this spyware so she could see where he was going, read all his messages and everything else.
Oh, one of my girlfriends actually did the same.
Probably.
But she didn't put pills into his
Didn't
drinks.
do the sleeping pills. Well, I mean, you've got to be careful.
Well, he was sleeping, like naturally sleeping.
Yeah. So the thing is that when you do that software update, more often than not, the software update will erase any spyware that's been in there, because the new security fixes will change it sufficiently enough that spyware is probably not going to work, and they would have to reload it again.
This is very interesting. Why did you start doing this? Why you decided doing this?
Okay,
30 years ago.
I know. When I was a small child, very small child I was when I started. I started this, I was a bodyguard originally, and I don't look so
you're
surprised.
Real 007.
But yeah, I was a bodyguard for many years. I looked after a lot of celebrities, traveled the world. Looked after many people.
Can you be my bodyguard in the future when I will be celebrity, when I will be big?
You are already, Anastasia. I will be your bodyguard. No problems at all.
Thank you so much.
Be delighted. And then I had a company that provided that. And then, as with a lot of things in security, a lot of it's interlinked. So where you're providing the bodyguards, you would need drivers, you would need security on the client's home, you would need someone to secure the client's devices and their computers. So my team built and built and built. And a lot of my guys, they're either ex-military, special or elite forces. A lot of the cyber guys are either poachers turned gamekeepers. So these guys were hackers, but they've come to the good side. Or they were ex-government agency guys who worked at the NSA or GCHQ. And they came on board. So yeah, I've got a real mix of people. And I make sure with all my people, they all work right across each other. So everybody's knowledge is universal.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And another question about real life. As long as we know, it's not safe in London anymore,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
And people got robbed on the streets during the day.
yeah.
And they not even afraid of cameras or police even not chasing them.
Yeah.
So what people should do to protect themselves
Okay. Well,
at home, and on the street, or in the restaurants, whatever. What people should do?
you hear this word a lot, or you hear these words a lot, and it doesn't mean a great deal to a lot of people, but it's one of probably the most important things, and that is situational awareness, and it's being aware of who is around you. And when you're walking down the street and you see someone walking towards you, pay attention. If you're on your phone,
But
you're
when
looking at
you're walking with your
Instagram,
phone like
you look at
this, you don't even
you will not see the problem
Yeah.
until the last minute. And I would tell you to apply the same rules as you would when you're driving. When you're driving, you want to be looking as far down the road as possible ahead of you to see if anything is there that could potentially harm you. A car broken down, a car crash, someone standing in the middle of the road, someone lying in the road, whatever it might be. Because then that gives you sufficient notice to slow down. The second thing I would say is take yourself out of your social politesse, out of your upbringing, which was being to be nice to people, to be polite to people. Not everybody deserves for you to be polite to them. Use that sparingly. Use it with the people that deserve it. So don't feel yourself compromised by standing at the ATM in the street and someone is standing closely behind you and you feeling socially sort of encumbered not to turn around and say, excuse me, could you give me a bit of space here, please? Because that degree of assertiveness could be sufficient to deter someone. The criminal is always looking for the path of least resistance. They're looking for the easy target. They're looking for the person who's not going to fight back. They're looking for the person who's not going to struggle, the person who's not going to resist. The more they perceive you to be a hard target, to be someone who will resist, who will fight back, who will shout, the less likely they're going to target you, because it's not you,
I will
Anastasia.
fight.
Yeah, I have
I
no
will
doubt about that.
shout.
I have no doubt
I will
about that.
scream.
You
I've
terrify
never
them.
been attacked
I
on
think
the
I'd
street.
well,
Never.
funny that.
I can fight.
Why is that not a surprise? So yeah, the key thing is be aware, have a look down the street, see what's ahead of you. And if you see something coming towards you, don't feel that you crossing the road, going into a shop, going into a coffee shop, going into a building or wherever it might be, but taking yourself out of the path of this person or group of people coming towards you makes you appear vulnerable. It doesn't. How many times have you walked out of your own apartment or your own home and you walk 10 yards and you go, I forgot something, and you 180 degrees and you go back?
Yeah.
We've all done that.
Yeah.
So you walking out of your apartment, you see someone down the street, and one of the big telltales, I find this with women, is that when they're if they look down, it shows that they're vulnerable. So as I'm walking towards them, not that I will stare at women as I'm walking down the street, but you know, if I'm looking and the woman immediately averts her gaze, that says to me she's vulnerable, which for a criminal could be, this one's going to be easy.
Do you mean looking at your phone?
No,
or
just looking down, just looking away, just not maintaining eye contact. And what I'm not saying is you stare at someone in the eyes.
Sometimes you don't want eye contact.
Of
You
course
just,
you don't. But it's using
go
eye
past.
contact in an appropriate way. So if I meet you for the first time, I say, hi, my name's Will. I'm your close protection officer. I'm here to keep you safe. I'm going to look you in the face and I'm going to look you in the eyes. If I go, hi, my name's Will. I'm here to keep you safe and to protect you. You're not going to feel very
not-
confident, are you?
Yeah.
So
I would
you-
feel you are not.
Yeah, just
secure,
dodgy. Yeah.
Secure or something.
Exactly. I'm not secure. So I would use my eyes sparingly. Sufficient to go, I spotted you, but I'm not staring lovingly into your eyes. I'm going, I've seen you, I spotted you, and go on. Because again, they're looking for the element of surprise. Does that help?
Yes. I didn't know actually about this eye contact or looking down, or I try when I walk past someone, I try not to look at them. That's it. I just look.
Yeah, you
further,
can look
that's
ahead,
it.
but if
Or
someone...
even when I look at my phone, I try to look like this If I see someone, I just look like this and
It's an
continue.
acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement. And remember, we're animals. Here's one of the things very few people realize. As a man, and many of the men who are watching this, and I'm sure you have many men watching your podcast.
I hope so.
I'm sure you do. When men look at each other, if they know each other, they'll lift their chin like that. If they don't know each other, but a man is sending an acknowledgement look to a strange man, or, I'm not saying strange weird, I'm saying a stranger, they'll drop their chin. And the reason being is that as animals, lifting our chin exposes our throat, which makes us vulnerable. And we'll only do that to someone that we know.
Like this.
So
Hello?
we drop our chin like that,
Like
sort of
that.
nodding like that. I'd love to see in the comments any of the guys who recall that happening, or since watching this podcast.
This is
if that happens.
interesting. It's the same as body language.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
you know body language,
But you've got to be careful with body language. Body language can be very deceptive. It doesn't mean, if you look in the top right-hand corner, you're lying, or if you're fidgeting, you're doing this, or if you're staring intently as you're telling something, that you're necessarily lying. There are so many different factors that obviously are at play about how someone sits, what they say, how they say it. It's a bit like NLP.
and how to recognize someone if someone can attack you or
Yeah.
potentially can be a criminal
Easy.
sitting or walking
To
in
a certain
front of
extent,
you.
easy.
Yeah. What are their body language?
So, okay, you're an attractive woman. I'm sure you've had this experience. I'm sure many of your viewers have had this experience. If you're in a bar, you're in a club, and a man on the other side that you don't know of the other bar or the club, you know when he's going to come over and talk to you, because he will look with a period of time to receive an acknowledgement.
Persistence looking at
If you shoot a cold Russian stare, then
yeah. I do
then
like
that will
this.
put him off. You do that. What a surprise.
Yeah, I can put it.
Then
put
you can
him
put him
off.
off. It could be enough sort of steely-eyed
Yeah.
to go, don't even think about it,
I
buddy.
always feel if someone looks at me like
yeah,
this.
you can feel it.
I
And again,
turn,
that's an
I
animal
turn
thing.
immediately. Yes, yeah.
it's an
And I
animal thing.
just, I don't know. People don't approach me easily like this. I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe.
No, but sometimes you have to, sometimes one can give off that essence. I mean, I've always said this. I've said this on many podcasts and interviews, that some of the most dangerous people I've met, and I've met some very, very, very dangerous people, are the nicest people you could ever meet. They smile, they're friendly,
Really.
they're very gently spoken, but they're the most dangerous. The guys who look scary, who sound scary, who posture, rarely are they scary because they're overcompensating. The quiet man who is very strong, who's very quiet, and doesn't have
Using
anything to
NLP
prove.
techniques, body language.
Well, we love a bit of
voice.
NLP.
Yes.
Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. This is very, very interesting. I would like to get involved, kind of to know a little bit more about it in order to protect myself more.
Of course, absolutely.
And my friends, my family, you know. Would you hire me?
Would I hire you? I'd have to train you first.
I can be easily trained.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
I'm from military town. We had this submarine
Well, you're probably
factory.
good. You were fighting off young soldiers all the time when you were a young girl.
No, I didn't. Yeah, but
Funny that. It was
but I was tomboy at school.
Tomboy. You? Tomboy?
Yeah, I
can
was
believe that.
tomboy. I was fighting. Yeah, I was tomboy at school, and I had lots of kind of police police calls to my mom.
Really?
Yes.
Problem child. I think we had a similar upbringing then. I was the same.
And one more question.
Please.
Do you have any advice or recommendations for individuals who are interested in pursuing a career in cybersecurity? What skills and knowledges are essential for success in this field?
Well, cybersecurity, I mean, again, I'm more broader, specialist security. Cyber is just one of the parts that I'm involved in. But I think with cybersecurity, you need to have an affinity with computers. You have to have an affinity and an enjoyment in programming. There are many, many different degrees you can get in cybersecurity, but a lot of it is in the practical elements. One of the things that I would say is look at the areas that you're most interested in. What are the things that you really like doing? Working in the problem solving side, which is what I'm fundamentally in, as well as obviously resilience and building the strength around people's networks. It's one of those things which is constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly evolving. So you have to have an active interest in it. Find a good company to intern with if you're starting out. Get some good qualifications behind it, but then have the practical skills. Because for me, if you came to me as a cyber expert, I'd want to know the breadth and extent of the skills that you have and how they could be translated in the best possible way for my clients to either protect them or to respond in a way when they have an attack.
How does your company train your potential specialists?
We don't train them. I mean, my specialists will come to me already trained. So we don't invest in training in our guys, only in the way that I like things doing. So it's about having the right personality. And the thing is, you can be the best operator in the world, but if you're not going to be good with clients, if you're not fun to work with, then you're not going to work in my company. I have very, very high standards for my guys, but I'm also very relaxed. I bring no ego into the equation, so I expect nobody else to bring an ego in either.
And how many people you have in your company?
I can't tell you that. It's a lot.
Because you have people
all over the world
from special elite military forces, government, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies, and all special security sector.
Indeed, yeah.
This is
all over the world.
Very impressive. All over the world.
All over the world. So if you have a problem in China, I'll help you. If you have a problem in Colombia, I'll help you. New York, London, Paris, all over. We're running a lot of projects all over the world, and we constantly are.
This is impressive.
It's okay. It pays the bills.
But one more question about my situation.
Yeah.
What would be the best what I can do now, for example, 4 years later? Because it was 2020.
Yeah.
August, September, and until like end of October. What can I do now? Can I do like law enforcement, or shall I hire a lawyer?
When was the last time you heard from this woman?
Basically, I haven't heard from her, but I saw her in one of membership club.
Okay.
I was sitting on the terrace in front of the entrance, and she saw me, and she ran over.
I think I know which club that is then.
Yeah.
We won't say. We won't say. We won't say.
Yes.
Don't want to get you into trouble.
Yeah,
I know which club you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to report.
And when she saw you, did she see you?
Yeah, she saw me and she ran over. Outside. So the police... I wanted to report to this club because I was also a member.
No, there's little point in that. If she saw you and she ran away, she's probably going to be more anxious about seeing you there again than anything else. It's a big club. It's got a lot of members. The chances of you seeing her again, probably very remote. The most important thing, as long as she's not bothering you, let it go. Leave it be and move on. The police have already warned her. That's as much as you need to do. And the one thing I always say to clients is, it's like a book. It's like a story. It's like a movie. Once it's ended, close the book. Turn the movie off. Yeah. Go to the next movie. Go to the next book. So don't let it eat up any more of your anger or anything else. Redirect that in a positive way.
Yeah, because I blocked from the beginning. I stopped paying attention from very beginning when she started doing it. But it was going on and going on for 2 months.
Yeah, it's a horrible experience to go through. I've had many death threats. I've had, and these are just not my ex-wives. I mean, these are other people. I'm kidding. It's disturbing at the time, but I won't merit it with any more of the space in here, which is limited as it is, to anything that is not going to bring positivity and good things into my life. It's like a poison. You expel the poison and you move on. Don't worry about this woman. If she comes back, you call me.
Tell me about your personal life. You married, you have kids.
Single,
You
no kids, no pets, no wives. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
were married
Twice.
twice.
Yeah.
Mm.
Poor women. I can only send my condolences to them both.
Why?
Or my commiserations, not
You
condolences. They're
difficult
still
man.
alive. They're still alive. Am I a difficult man? No, I'm easy. I'll let you be the judge of
Why
that.
you say they poor people?
Well, they had to live with me, didn't they? I try and be a good guy. I think, although strangely, with my disastrous past life, I have a lot of friends who come to me for counsel and advice. And I think because, I love my friends and I will always speak it honestly. And I won't necessarily tell them what they want to hear, but what they maybe need to hear. And I think, as any friend should, we need to be there for them to lean on our shoulders. But one of the things that I've learned, and it took me a long time to learn this, is that if we're with a partner and she has an issue, there's only two questions that we need to ask that woman. And that is, do you want me to listen or do you want solutions?
Yes. Yes.
And if she wants us just to listen, because we as guys, we love to fix things. And sometimes you don't want us to fix things. So sometimes you just want us to listen. And we should do that.
You remain friends with your ex-wives?
Who?
You remain friends with
Who?
your ex-wife? I stay friends with my ex-husband. So.
Are you? Well, that's very good.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
Because I have nothing back to hold about them, about him, and why not?
I move on.
Move on.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, move on.
I have a lot of lovely female friends in my life. And yeah, I mean, if I think, I love hard. I have, I throw my heart and soul behind it. And I think for whatever reasons, when that breaks up, it's very difficult to transfer that into just friendship when your heart has been quite strongly invested.
Sometimes.
I'm sounding soft now.
Yeah.
I hope nobody watches this bit.
I know sometimes it's difficult to get through some issues in relationships.
Always. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Anastasia, my
Yes.
absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.